Hello everyone! If you're watching this video, you might be planning to or wanting to go to Australia. Awesome! I'm going to be talking about Australian visas, what they are and how you can get them. I'm going to be quite technical in this video and quite specific. If you're more looking for a general travel or how to study abroad videos, I have those as well. I'll link them up there in the cards, and after you've done that and you've chosen Australia, you can come back here and watch this information. Australia has a ton of visas, like at least 50 of them, and they're all quite specific to what you want to do there, how long you want to be there, and which country you're originally from. So before you dive into the visas, you have to establish for yourself, what do you need the visa for? Are you going for study? Are you going for work? Do you just want a holiday? Are you just having a transfer? Do you want to move there permanently? Because all those visas are different. What's the same for all those visas is that you need to create an IMI account. Via the IMI account, the Australian government will keep tabs on the visas that you have applied for, the visas that are granted to you, and it's linked to your passport. Because a lot of these visas are not sent to you physically anymore. These visas are electronically linked to your passport. You don't get a fancy stamp in your passport when you enter or when you leave. You just scan the passport and then the machine will see if you have a proper visa linked to your passport and then let you in or not. Now, if you're already freaking out like, oh, how am I supposed to know which visa I need? Don't fret too much. The Australian government site is really good. As soon as you go there, you will choose a subcategory, like if you want to study or you want to work or you want to go on a holiday. Just select what you need, and then you have like a small questionnaire that will help you determine which visa applies for your situation. Sometimes these are multiple ones and you can choose the one that's most suitable for you, but more often than not there's one specific visa that you can use. As I mentioned before, there are quite a lot of categories to these visas. I'm going to be talking about three, namely going on a vacation, going to study, and going to work there. Just for tourism visas alone, there are 14 different visas that you can or cannot get. These visas can be either very broad or very specific. For example, the transit visa is only 72 hours, it's free, but you know, you can't do much with it. There's like this very specific frequent traveler visa for just Chinese citizens. There's a medical treatment visa, there's visas for business people, and like there are so many different visas. However, by far the most easy one to get is the e-visitor visa. The e-visitor visa is the most conventional tourism visa for Australia. This one is electronical, as I mentioned before, and it's granted quite easily and quickly, with most of those applications handled within like 2 days. Now, you will have this visa for 12 months. So if you apply and it is granted on the April 1st of 2019, you can travel in and out of Australia for 12 months. So until April 1st, 2020. However, you have a maximum stay of 3 months. This doesn't have to be all connected at once. You can go for 1 month, have a break for 4 months, and go for another month. Post-editing Carla here. I have to correct myself because I read the information wrong. It actually says that you're allowed to stay up to 3 months every time you enter Australia. So within the 12 months, you are basically able to stay 12 months as long as you leave and re-enter the country in between. This visa is free, which is great, but you have to apply for it outside of Australia. So if you're already in Australia on a different visa and you're looking to prolong your stay by getting this quick, easy visa, you have to leave the country first. Very, very important is that this is a tourism visa. You are not allowed to do any kind of work. However, you are allowed to study up to 3 months. So if you are going for, you know, a semester, just like a month or, you know, 8 weeks, look into this visa instead of getting the quite more expensive student visa, which I will be talking about later. This one is free and it does allow you to study up to 3 months as long as you don't need any work to sustain yourself. So in terms of student visas, Australia is a bit more restrictive. There are only 3 visas, of which only basically one is actually for students themselves, which is the student visa. Now, the student visa isn't just for college students or even just for high school students. You can't get this visa as long as you're over 6 years of age. However, you have to be enrolled in a full-time course at a recognized educational institution. You can have this visa up to 5 years. This visa isn't free. It's going to cost you 575 Australian dollars. You can apply for the student visa both within and outside of Australia, but you do have to hold a overseas student health cover, which I don't know what that is. I'm not here for study, so apparently that is a thing that students need to be able to study here, or they need to be exempt from that, but that's a whole nother list of rules. With this visa, you are allowed to work a limited amount of time. More specifically, you're allowed to work up to 40 hours every fortnight. This means you can, work 10 hours one week and then 30 hours the next week, or just 20 in each, but you can't exceed the 40-hour limit within that time frame. If you're doing your master's degree or your PhD, you are allowed to work an unlimited amount of time next to your study course. However, you aren't allowed to work until your course actually starts. So you have to be actively going to school and then working next to that. The other two visas for the student visas is the student guardian visa. So that's for a person who would come along with a person under 18 years of age. The other one is a training visa, which is for people who don't want to mainly work, but they are there for a workplace orientated training or training program or whatever. Lastly, on to our last category, which is work visas. There are 38 different work visas. They have very specific visas for flight crew or maritime crew, film and events people, athletes, religious workers and business people. There are a lot of different and very specific visas, which can go from anywhere to a few weeks to a couple of years to permanently, which also allows you to bring over family and everything. So lots of visas, but probably most of them won't apply to you because, as I said, they are very specific for specific groups of people. The one you have probably heard the most of is the working holiday visa. This is the visa that all the backpackers get. Now, for some reason, this visa comes in two subcategories, which is subclass 417 and subclass 462. There are very little differences between these, but number 417 lets you apply online, and it also has a slightly different rule for our Canadian and Irish people, because they get to apply for this visa up to age of 35 instead of the regular 30. Because to apply for this visa, you have to be between 18 and 30 years of age. You have to have a certain passport from a certain country. I'll put a list here. It's quite specific. You would think that most EU countries would be fine. However, I have a friend from Poland who it doesn't appear on this list, so she can't apply for this visa. Again, this visa is not free. It's going to cost you 450 Australian dollars, so convert that to any currency you're actually using, and it allows you to stay here up to 12 months. After you've been granted this visa, you have an entire year to actually enter the country. So if you apply and it is granted on April 1st, 2019, you have until April 1st, 2020 to actually enter Australia, and from entering, your actual 12 months will progress. So if you are planning on going to Australia, but you're like, oh, it's like 6 months away or 8 months away, don't stress, just apply, and when you get the visa, you'll have a year to actually enter, so that's all fine. There are some other quite specific rules to this visa. For example, you are not allowed to have any dependent children with you. So if you have basically a kid under 18, you're not allowed to just enter on this visa with the child with you. You are also not allowed to have had this visa before either subclass 417 or 462, because there's actually a second year working holiday visa which you will have to apply for separately. As the name implies, this working holiday visa allows you to work in the country. There is no limit to the hours you're allowed to work. However, you are not allowed to work for the same employer for more than 6 months. This is kind of to deter you from career building, basically, because they have different visas specifically aimed towards business and specific talents. So they want you to get one of those visas instead. They are trying to get rid of this rule, I believe, but I don't know how quickly that's gonna happen. Next to working, you are also allowed to study up to 4 months. So if you are finishing up your education here in Australia and you'll be graduated and you want to start traveling right after, this would be quite an ideal visa to get, because you can first finish up your studies and then straight up go travel and work in this country, because applying for this visa has to happen outside of Australia. So if you are here on a student visa or a visitor visa for doing your studies, you can't like apply for this working holiday visa while you're still in Australia. So you first have to leave, either go home or go to a neighboring country and apply for it there. Another quite specific thing is that you have to have enough money. What is stated with enough money, that would be 5,000 Australian dollars to sustain yourself living here, plus the fare that would cost you to go home. However, you can play a bit loose with this rule. You can either borrow money of like parents or people, have it on your account when they check it, and after you enter Australia you can just like give the money back and live on the money that you actually have. However, when I applied for this, they never asked for my bank details, so they never actually checked if I had enough money, even though I did have it in my bank account at that moment. But yeah, I don't know how strict they are with this rule. Now, the rule you have probably already heard of from the backpackers I mentioned before is the 3 months of specific work. A lot of people call this farm work, but there are actually other things you can do as well. These 3 months of specific work have to be completed for you to be able to apply for the second year of the working holiday visa. This also has to be paid work. Back in the day, voluntary work was enough as well, but it has to be paid. You have to provide payslip to prove that you have done the hours required. The hours required means that you have to have done an equivalent to a full-time job for 3 months or 88 days. This means most probably working 5 days a week for anywhere between 5 and 8 hours, depending on the field of work that you are in. You don't have to do all these 3 months in one go. You don't have to be stuck in one place for that long. You are just allowed to, you know, work somewhere for 2 weeks or for 4 weeks and then move on to the next place, as long as you make sure you get your pay slips and you register your hours correctly. Now, as I said before, farm work isn't the only thing that qualifies as specific work. Plant and animal cultivation is certainly one of the things you can do, but next to this you can do fishery and pearling, you can do tree farming and felling, you can do construction, and you can do mining as well. And all these subcategories have their own little rules. Go look on the site, I'll link everything below in the description, but they're very specific with it. There's loads and loads and loads of information. With that being said, everything I just told you can be found on the Australian government website. I'm just trying to make it a little bit easier for you to determine what kind of visa you would probably need. As I mentioned before, the site is really easy. You can just select why you are going to Australia, answer a simple few questions, and they will help you determine what kind of visa you are eligible for. I hope I helped you a little bit in the vague world of Australian visas. If I did, please leave me a thumbs up so I know I'm doing a good job. And otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye! And 464. 62, damn it.